Taylor. Thank you for tuning in to the Free Minds podcast. And today, I'm so excited to introduce our special guest. This is Miss Holli Tabren, and she is an author here. She's about to debut her book, Blood Ain't Thicker. So I'm so excited to have you here, and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me. This studio is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I have to tell you that. It's so beautiful. And I am Holli Tabren, and I am an author of my very first novel, Blood Ain't Thicker. I am also a speaker and an entrepreneur, and I am so excited to be on this podcast.
We are so excited to have you. And with that being said, I'm going to dig right in. I like to just go. First of all, you look beautiful. I want to say that. And I want to just, give you your flowers. I love the fact that you have written a book. I can't wait to read it. I have a lot of other friends that are wanting to write books or already authors, but I love to see it growing in the female Black community. Yes. We have a lot to say, and I commend you for that. So let me just ask you, tell me what inspired you to write this novel?
So, what inspired me to write this novel, like you were just saying, how you have so many people that want to write, the power of literary expression, right? It allows you to take your life experiences and the people you have encountered throughout your life and bring them to life, right? Breathe breath into them. And that way, you're able to tell a story that people can see.
Okay, yes, I love that. I've had a few people tell me, like, when they hear my story, I should write a book. So I understand exactly what you're saying with that. And to be able to allow your story to touch people that you may not even have come in contact with, I think that that's great. I wasn't a big reader growing up, but now as an adult, I see the power that comes through the pages of words. You know what I mean? So I think that's awesome. So let me ask you, what are some of the themes that you explored when you were writing this novel?
So when I was writing this novel, I was just thinking about Harlem, back at home in New York City, and all the things that I encountered. Some things when I was way too young to experience.
Okay.
And so when I did that, I birthed that into Hadassah. Hadassah is like one of the main characters in there. But there's so many different characters throughout the book that will take you on a journey that someone is going to be able to relate to.
Right.
You will find your person
Awesome.
in Blood Ain't Thicker.
Okay, I'm ready to read it. So I'm a fellow New Yorker myself. I'm originally from the Bronx, so I completely understand what you're saying, being, introduced to experiences early in certain things, and then being able to, now that you've gone through that as an adult, to be able to express that. I think that's pretty awesome. So I'm ready to read this book already. And as regards as like your main character, right? Tell me what are some of the characteristics that they have that represent yourself, or that may inspire you personally, that made you, give those characteristics to that character?
Well, the fictitious adaptation of my life is what the whole book is based on. And so Hadassah represents my character, my experiences, more so than the others. However, I am weaved into each and every character.
Wow.
So Hadassah loves her family.
Okay.
She's a spoiled brat, right? And she experienced things way too young.
Right.
She thought she was grown. You know how that is.
Yes.
And so with that, she allowed the influences of her environment to dictate her choices.
Okay.
And ultimately, she was facing 25 years in prison.
Wow. Oh, man, this sounds very interesting.
Yes.
And even though I haven't even got to read, the synopsis of your story, I can already see where myself and probably a lot of other women, especially women of color, will be able to relate to this story.
Yes.
Especially the title. I love the title, by the way. I think that's amazing. And since we're speaking on that, can you touch on what was some of the reasoning behind you titling this book?
Because blood ain't thicker.
Okay.
Listen, you know how they say blood ain't thicker than water?
That's right.
Blood ain't thicker.
That's right.
And for me, Hadessa experienced extreme heartbreak with the ultimate bloodline betrayal. You know, she was involved in a situation with her cousins, and they didn't want to take responsibility for their actions. So they decided to take the stand and testify against her.
Wow.
And this really broke her heart because, you know, your protectors are now turned prosecutors.
Right.
You know, and your family has turned to foes now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, she finds a way to forgive, and she gets that freedom.
Wow. It sounds like a very full plot message, you know, where, like you said, no matter what you've been through in your lifetime, there's certain parts that we will all be able to relate to with this message.
Yes.
So who is your exact intended audience for your novel?
My exact intended audience for my novel are those who feel like the choices that they made in their life has paralyzed them and stopped them from reaching the plan and purposes that God has for them. I am a believer, and I want people to understand that if they just change their philosophy, if they begin to believe in themselves, they will be able to fulfill anything. And to understand that the people that you connected to determine how your story ends.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So let me just ask you this. I know a lot of people, even myself, has inspired to, you know, tap into writing. I'm an adult now, and I think about 2 years ago, I just started journaling. You know what I mean? From different things in my past, I internalized things, and I thought that was the proper way, you know, to not have a pity party and not speak about it. But then I saw, you know, the relief that was taken off of just my mental when I began to journal. So is there any significance as far as like therapy or motivation or, you know, self-care that you kind of feel that you can tap into as you are writing your novels?
Yes, that is such a great question because, like I said earlier, the power of literary expression, right? That it doesn't just allow you to bring your characters to life or your life experiences to life. It's therapeutic. It allows you to understand the root of the thing that you need to heal from. So, because a lot of times we don't look at ourselves and try to say, you know what is in me that's attracting these choices, that's attracting me to make these go down this pathway, because at the end of the day, that's what has to happen, right? It's so easy to blame others, but being able to write helps you heal. It helps you get all of that stuff out, so you can get to the roots of the thing.
And I mean, like I said, I can speak from that personally. Just in journaling and writing some things down, I've been able to, you know, look at things differently because I now see it on paper. You know, it's not just stuck in my head anymore, and some things I'm able to let go. So just in hearing you speak, I thought, you know, I can only imagine, you know, how therapeutic and self-rewarding this may be for you to, you know, start at the beginning, and now, you know, at the end of this month, we're taking pre-orders for your book. I think that's amazing, right? So what were some of the most challenging aspects that you encountered while you were writing this novel?
Starting. The most challenging aspect of anything that has a great purpose, right? That is going to be so powerful in the world is starting.
Right.
We all have it in us.
Yes.
You have your story in you, and everyone has a story that someone that can help someone heal.
Right.
And I just want people to understand that. Just start.
Right.
And when you start, girl, that thing begins to flow.
Yes. So what are some of the things that motivated you when you felt like giving up? You know what I mean? I know that a book, of course, I haven't written one. I've talked to a few people in the past, and I know that it is a process. You know, you get your thoughts down. You may have a writer, you have editors, you have publishers, you have illustrations. Some do, some don't. So when times got a little tough, or you may have felt like, oh my goodness, I don't know, what was some of the motivation that you used to kind of fuel your fire again?
Okay, so the motivation that I used to fuel my fire was reminding my soul of what was spoken over my life, right? So, like I said, Hadessa's character represents me a lot. And when I first started my 25-year sentence, a woman came to the door from a church, a missionary, prison ministry, and she looked at me and she said to me, God preserved you for a purpose. and you need to tell your testimony. You're going to write a book, and your book is going to help free other people.
Right.
It's going to help other people heal. So when I get frustrated, I not only think about that lady and all the people that I can help heal by reading my story.
Right.
I also think about my parents. I have a why. You know, they sacrifice so much. And you don't just do time by yourself. That's the power of choices.
Yeah,
everyone you connected to is affected by it. You know, and so I think about my parents, and I think about before they close their eyes, I want them to understand that it wasn't for nothing.
Right.
Them sticking by me wasn't for nothing.
Yes, I love that.
Yes, a redemption story.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So with that being said, right, that's beautiful, first of all, you know, and I like to ask those questions because I know realistically people have to know that every day won't be as easy as the other, you know, but that doesn't mean giving up, and you have to have those core values that you can stand on in times like that. So with that being some of the challenging, tell me what was some of the most enjoyable moments that you had when you were writing your novel?
So some of the most enjoyable moments that I had writing my novel is finishing.
Getting it done.
First I'm thinking about finishing, and just when I designed the cover, right? When I decided to design a cover and I hired my person to do the book trailer and all of that, I got excited.
Right.
I was like, I want to read this thing that I'm writing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm writing it and I want to read it. And then also, I got to remember some moments in my life that was great.
Right.
You
That's
know,
beautiful.
so the book takes you on an emotional roller coaster. You're gonna cry. You're gonna be angry.
Right.
But those moments that were great were really great.
That's awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the novel, right?
Okay.
So you told us a little bit about the main character. What is the central conflict of your novel per se for your audience?
The central conflict of my novel is betrayal.
Okay.
It's betrayal and choices, right? Consequences. Prison. 25 years sentence in prison. However,
juicy.
Yes. However, what happens during that prison journey is absolutely amazing. God always leaves a remnant.
Oh, yes.
Okay, no matter, again, what choices you make in life, when you have a purpose on your life that's greater than yourself, right? He always leaves a remnant for you to have, it's always a way out.
I agree.
It's always a way out. And sometimes prison may be that way out.
That way out, yeah. I agree. I know multiple people have a mentor of mine, and she did 14 years in prison, and she came home and became a lawyer and helped advocate to get other women out of prison. But she was one of my most inspirations as to you don't have to be a product of your story.
Right.
You know, you determine the end result. This
Right.
is what you choose to do with the cards that you're dealt with.
Right.
And then even if you have a bad hand, you can shuffle it differently.
That's right.
You know, and I love that aspect of it, right? So I'm going to ask you, as far as any, are there any particular scenes or any, I know we spoke on the main character, but any other characters in the novel that were significant to you?
Yeah, so there are so many characters in the novel that was significant to me. But what I believe that you can relate to as a woman, and being that it is Women's Month, is the love interest, right? Throughout the novel, there's some strong love interests. But when Hadassah locks eyes on the plug's plug,
yes, I cannot wait.
It gets serious.
I will be one of the first putting my pre-order in. And I'm going to take a break for a second, guys. So her book will be, I think it's launching in early April, correct?
Yes, but you can pre-order on Amazon March 31st.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to get to. So you're able to start pre-orders March the 31st on Amazon. Guys, do not wait. I have a really strong feeling that this baby may sell out.
Yes.
I know I'm going to get my pre-order, and I'll make sure that you guys do the same. Don't worry, all the links and information will be available. So I just wanted them to know, because if they get as interested as I am just hearing you speak about it. I want to make sure they know how to order.
Okay.
Right? So I know you gave me a lot of backstory within yourself and your involvement in your own personal life and how it, helped you write your novel. But as far as like your plot in the novel, what are some things that help you develop it from a story standpoint?
So some of the things that helped me develop it from a story standpoint was research.
Okay.
Also, I am a member of the Columbia Writers Alliance.
Okay.
And so it is a nonprofit organization that's been around for about 20 years. And the people there help me turn my experiences into a story.
Okay.
That is one of the services that they offer. And then by just talking to different people about their story, reading other books and reading other authors that I really admire. Just taking some classes, as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot of
so what you're saying is you put in the work.
I put in the work,
right? And so that stands out to me as well, especially from an author standpoint, right? Because you're saying, hey, I got this great storyline, or I may want to do a bio about myself. So some people may feel like I don't have to worry about anything because I am the writer. I am telling the story.
Right.
However, to be successful, you have to put in, time and work into anything that you do, and to see that you've studied the craft beforehand, it will have a lot to say about your upcoming success. I already see it, but I'm glad for them to know that, because sometimes people, they want to do it, but they don't understand the what, when, why, and how that goes behind getting this job done. So I like to ask people, and you made a great point with that, the fact that you have researched other authors, you've taken classes, you've done things to help you become an expert in your niche. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So while we're talking about that, tell me, when you were writing this novel, were there any particular writing techniques or styles that you used?
So when I was writing, any particular techniques or styles that I used, I wanted, I guess, the visual style. I wanted to be able to, like I said earlier, tell a story you can see.
Right.
For me, as a reader, I'm an avid reader. I love to read. And now I love audiobooks. It's so much easier to get the book done. However, the writers that made me feel like I was there, that I was in the moment, that I felt the feeling, those were the ones that I couldn't put down.
Right.
So I wanted to be that writer. I wanted to make sure that I articulated it so well that it was like you were there.
Yes, and I can already see it. I haven't even read the book, but just speaking to you and listening to you speak about the characters and the stories, and I can, I'm from the city as well, but I'm sure that even someone who is not, they can still picture these images that you're speaking on, and that's great, because even for me, I'm not a strong reader as I would like to be. So when it's able to paint that picture in my mind, it gives me more to want to keep reading. I'm able to follow through with what I'm reading, because it's almost like I'm watching it. So it's like waiting for the next episode when I'm going to read the next chapter. So that's amazing. So as far as that, are there any authors or any other books that inspired you in the past and present while you were writing your first novel?
Yes, so I began writing my first novel during my 5th year prison sentence.
Okay.
And when I tell you I had all the Black author books on deck, my brother, shout out to my brother Lucci, he made sure I kept all the books on deck. And one of my favorite authors were Ashley and Jaquavis.
Okay.
Yeah, Ashley and Jaquavis Coleman. I used to read a lot of their books. There are more authors that I love now, but when I started to write, I was inspired by how they wrote and how they allowed you to be there. The visuals that they gave you were just absolutely
that's awesome. I remember as a teenager reading like some of the Sister Soldier books, right? And when she finally got the flowers that I felt like she deserved, I was so happy, because it's like, for me, I finally was able to read a book that came from where I was from, that I could, relate to, that I can find reverence in, and for me that was very important, because I was not a strong reader, so I already didn't have the motivation to read, and so that's great that like how you're saying, to really put the people there, because those different styles of reading gives everybody the opportunity to enjoy that.
Right.
You know, now I'm a little older and, you know, businesses and things like that, I've kind of broadened my reading so that I can have different aspects of it. But, you know, growing up and even into college, those books, those, you know, juicy books and the books about this and that, but they were interesting to me. But then I said, you know, I want to get into something that will just be a little more creative for my mental. But it's funny you said that, because in the beginning, that's where it started.
Yes.
If they didn't have authors and books like that, I'm not sure if I would have ever picked up the hobby of reading, you know. And even with my daughter, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I tell her all the time, she kind of, you know, bucks at me about reading, and I'm like, you get that naturally.
Yes.
However, we're going to find something that you like.
Right.
And so now she's found, you know, the type of stories that interest her, and I see a huge difference. Now she wants to read. So to have your book, Blood Ain't Thicker, I'm sure so many people that don't have, you know, an average good read will now have something that they're, you know, excited to be able to indulge in.
Yes, and when you mentioned Sister Soldier, girl, you said coldest winter ever.
Yes.
Okay, I love coldest winter ever, and it reminded me also about another great author that I like, Terry Woods.
Yes, Terry Woods is great.
This is what's so special about that. I bought her first book from her, True to the Game, in front of Mark 125. Do you remember Mark 125 on 125th Street?
Yes.
Yes, and so she was selling that book outside of her car.
Wow.
Right, when she tells a story about, you know, living in her car. She was selling it outside the trunk of her car, and I bought that first book. And when I was incarcerated, I was talking to my parents, and my mom was, I'm like, where's Dad? And my mom was like, he's in there watching some movie called True to the Game. I said, True to the Game?
Right.
I said, is that by Terry Woods? She said, well, let me check. And she came back and she said, yes, it is. I said, wow, Terry.
Yeah.
So to see that,
right.
that also inspired me. Like, I watched her go through the process. And that's what we're doing. My team and I, we are recording this process. So for those who are aspiring to write their novel and to write their, you know, their first book or to tell their story, we're going to help them do that.
Right.
Yes.
And then it's great that you're recording that, because, you know, when it's all said and done, we need that to be able to go back and remember, you know, but also it shows them that there is a process, you know, and I speak to people about that all the time, and I try to be transparent with my own so that my audience knows, like, it doesn't just happen overnight, you know what I mean? And if Terry Woods did not start in the trunk of that car, then that movie would have never been able to, you know, so like you said, it's just, it goes back to just starting. But realizing when you start that there is a process that you have to go through before you get the end result that you want, you know? So, yeah, that's very beautifully said. And while we're speaking on inspiration, I want to ask you, to any aspiring author out there, you know, what advice would you give them?
I know you're enjoying the episode, but I had to tell you about my brand new novel, Blood Ain't Thicker. It's available on Amazon and at www.hollitabren.com. Back to the episode.
They are looking to, you know, wanting to become an author.
The advice that I would give to them if they want to become an author is to try to stay where the anointing is. And what I mean by that is associate yourself with people who breathe life into you, who speak life into you. A lot of times I find people that have amazing gifts, but they're around people or they're around environments that try to snuff those gifts out, right? Because they're afraid of them, right? Some of us are just unique in certain ways. But when you find your community, when you go where the anointing is, you will be able to birth things you could have never imagined. And just start writing your story. You start with journaling. You start with, because normally people who really, you know, people have told them so many times they were going to be an author. When I joined my church, Forward City, in Columbia, South Carolina, I sat next to a person who happened to be the owner of the Columbia Writers Alliance. We just praise and worship, and she saw me journaling, and she said to me, "Are you a writer, or do you just journal?" And so I thought that was an odd question in the middle of praise and worship. So she said, "Are you an author? Are you a writer? Do you just journal?" I said, "I was actually thinking about writing my story." She said, "You're going to be an author."
Wow.
Perfect stranger.
Oh yeah.
Perfect stranger. And then you start to think about all the other people that you are close to.
Right.
So a lot of times people see in you what you don't see in yourself.
Yeah.
But once you see it,
yep.
Once you see it, your vision will take you beyond what you could have ever imagined.
Yes, ma'am. And I love how you put that. Go where you are anointed, where the anointing is. That is great. I've never heard it, put like that. But you're right. And just like you said, you're just in church, having church service, and because you're at the right place at the right time, that could have been God speaking to you through her, letting you know. If you didn't know that you would be an author, you're one now, so go ahead and prepare yourself. Someone told me not too long ago, prepare yourself for your gifts.
Yes.
So that's great. It's been a pleasure. I could ask you so many more questions for days, right? But I'm just gonna end with a few more things, right? I want to know, are there any upcoming projects outside of your book? I know you said that you were a speaker and other things. So are there any things that we can look forward to, make sure that we follow along the journey for the spring and summer of this year?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that question. Well, you definitely have to follow me on all social media platforms at Holli Tabren. But all things Holli Tabren will be on www.hollitabren.com.
Okay.
And again, all social media platforms, that's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all the things.
Okay.
And I have a t-shirt company called Styling is Necessary.
Okay.
So where you can articulate your unique sense of style through logos and literature. So I have some unisex products there.
Awesome.
I am also in development of launching a boutique shopping oasis called Styling, where I will be integrating fashion and tech.
Okay.
It's my baby that I've had on my heart for over 20 years.
Super interesting.
Yes.
That is great.
Yes.
Well, Holli, thank you so much. It has been a complete pleasure. You are very inspiring. I'm sure they will say the same, but even to myself, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I feel like I've learned a lot from you. And even just for myself, it's more motivation to, like you said, stay where they're anointed. Make sure that I'm walking in the right paths that I need to be walking in to fulfill my purpose, and with some of the things that you said, you really inspired me in that area. So I thank you for that. I know briefly you gave them your platforms, but if you would like to give it one more time and let them know again where they can order their pre-orders before we go.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, all things Holli Tabren will be on www.hollitabren.com. Follow me on all social media platforms at Holli Tabren, and the book will be ready for pre-order March 31st on Amazon. And future dates and events, I will be reading some excerpts from my book. All of those things will be on hollitabren.com. So stay tuned.
Well, guys, that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Free Minds Podcast. Holli, thank you again.
Pleasure.
Yes, and we cannot wait to see
I'll be
you guys
back.
next time.
Okay?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I got some more to
I'm
say.
holding close to you. Don't worry. You're not going to be able to go too far.
Yes, thank you. Law and No Order Special Survivors Unit. I'm your host, Holli Tabren, and we sit down and have some amazing conversations with people about the choices they made with the chances they were given, but ultimately how they are changing their story by writing a new chapter.
Holli Tabren presents a heartbreaking drama based on a true story. Family means everything until they mean nothing. Bloodline betrayal, superficial seductions, a jaw-dropping page-turner. You have to get through the ratchetness to get to the righteousness. Choices and consequences, forgiveness and freedom. A magnetic and masterful read, compelling and captivating. Blood Ain't Thicker by Holli Tabren.